Our presence in Afghanistan is fully justified, whether considered from the point of view of international law, humanitarian needs, or Canadian and global interests in security. If we're not willing to lend our military resources when asked to do so by the United Nations, in a mission coordinated by NATO, in a country whose democratically elected government wants us, and whose citizens desperately need us, then we wonder where and when Canada would do so. In short, Canada's presence in Afghanistan matters to Afghans, to our allies, and to our interests. The essential questions are these: how to move from a military role to a civilian one, and how to achieve a shift in responsibility for Afghanistan's security from the international community to Afghans themselves. The Prime Minister must step up and make this mission a top priority, with a Cabinet Committee to ensure coordination of Canada's efforts, and even more important, he must personally lead our diplomatic initiative, making our voice heard to a degree commensurate with our contribution. He should urge that the international community get its act together both in Afghanistan and with other key countries in the region. As for Canada's mission in Kandahar, we do not expect that NATO will be able to replace us in 2009, nor will the Afghans be ready to take over. But we can insist that NATO find us a partner in Kandahar, enabling us to expand the scope of security and to shift increasingly from fighting to training the Afghan forces. We believe that at a minimum, a battle group of 1,000 soldiers is needed to support the existing Canadian effort, as well as improved equipment if the Kandahar mission is to succeed. If this cannot be mustered over the next year, then Canada should signal its intent to transfer responsibility for security in Kandahar. We have no illusions about the deficiencies at present, nor about the complexity of the challenge. But our recommendations are guided by what we observed and what we learned. They're intended simply to improve the prospects for success. This is a tall order, and the panel concludes it cannot all be achieved in the next 12 months. We found no operational logic around ending the mission in February 2009 or any real ability to complete the job by that date. We also believe the 4 options presented by the government in our terms of reference are deficient. Canadian forces will withdraw from Afghanistan. The question is, when? We believe that an immediate withdrawal from Afghanistan without making an effort to achieve a better result for Afghans would squander our investment and dishonor our sacrifice to date.
This panel has been described by critics as a panel to rubber stamp the conservative view of what should be done in Afghanistan. You've linked it to the Liberal government heritage, not only of Martin and Chrétien, but going back to Pearson. Are these recommendations in this report something that Liberals can or should be able to get on board with? Is this report within a Liberal tradition?
I think it's absolutely within a Liberal tradition. Understand, as I said at the very outset, this is a United Nations mission. Under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, Lester Pearson's fingerprints are all over the UN Charter. It preceded his innovation, for which he received the Nobel Prize, by 10 years. It would be nice to have a peacekeeping mission in Kandahar. Unfortunately, as we've said in our report, there isn't a peace to keep there. But the authorization for this action by the United Nations is firmly in the tradition that was fathered by Lester Pearson. As I said earlier, I believe in a strong international role for Canada. I think this world is getting more complicated, more difficult, more dangerous. I don't think those issues should just be resolved by nuclear superpowers. I think that countries like Canada have an important, meaningful role to play, projecting our values, standing for the rights of individuals, of the human security of people whose own governments can't protect them. That's something that we as Canadians have talked a lot about and we believe in. So I believe this is firmly in that tradition. And what's our alternative? I mean, one thing I'll tell you about this, what we've said in this report is, this is not, you can't turn the rheostat on this. You either stay and you say you mean it, and you get something that we can call success, which is giving the Afghan government the ability to maintain its own security like any sovereign country should be able to do, or you get out. And if we get out, what's the next mission? When are we going to say no to the United Nations when they come forward and say, here's where we need troops? We're a rich country. We got to do some of this stuff. Would it be in Darfur? Well, regrettably, the government of Sudan doesn't want anyone in Darfur, and let me tell you, it would be just as dangerous. It would be a combat mission. Would it be in Rwanda? We didn't have a combat mission in Rwanda. We had blue helmets, and the result was genocide. The world isn't a pretty place, but I happen to believe that the people that came before me in the Liberal Party that believed in a strong role for Canada on the international stage would say, there are times when we have to count. There are times when it matters. We're not prepared to retreat under the U.S. missile shield and live in Fortress North America. We're prepared to be out there, and we're prepared to pay the price, because that's what you expect of a country like Canada. That's what I'd say.
So are you sticking with your position that the combat role must end in February 2009, or are you willing to consider an extension if the conditions set out by Mr. Manley are met?
We want the combat mission to end February 2009 and Canada to continue a mission in Afghanistan with our partners of NATO and the government of Afghanistan. We want to be very active on training the Afghan forces, training the police. We want to focus on development. We want to have better governments of this mission. And we'll see what Mr. Manley and his group are proposing. I cannot reject a report I didn't read.
Do you still think the government should act immediately to tell NATO we're getting out of Kandahar?
Maybe if the government would have acted as Mr. Manley seems to recommend, although I'm not sure what he's recommending exactly, would not be in the situation where we are. The position of the Liberal Party of Canada since 1 year, for 1 year, is to be sure that the government of Canada notify NATO and the Afghan government that we will end our combat mission for February 2009, as it is the official timeline. It's not the official opposition who is inventing that. It is the official timeline, February 2009. If the government of Canada would have followed this view, I'm sure that today would be in much clearer situation for our troops, because this is very heavy on our troops, what we are demanding to them. 3 years of a combat mission, which is by far the most dangerous one in Afghanistan. I think after 3 years, Canada may proudly said, we have other things to do to help the people of Afghanistan, and it's for NATO and the government of Afghanistan to prepare for a replacement.
Do you still say today that it's time for another country to replace Canada in Kandahar?
It should have been asked by the Conservative government since a year now. They should have done that last February, not this February.
Mr. Dion, on the economy, a non-combat role in Kandahar.
A non-combat role that we need to discuss with our NATO allies and the government of Afghanistan how it should be designed.
Mr. Dion, it sounds like you're sticking with your position for a pullout of the combat role in February 2009, therefore rejecting any possible change or compromise based on the Manley report before you've even read it.
We will read the report. And as you know, we are willing to continue a mission in Afghanistan, and we'll see what Mr. Manley proposed as a mission, what designs he's suggesting, and we'll see when we'll have read the report. Our current position, as you know, is that the combat mission ends in February 2009. We have strong reasons for that. We think it's by far the most dangerous mission in Afghanistan. We have carried this mission during 3 years, and it's time for Canada to do something else in Afghanistan to help the people of Afghanistan. This is our position.